With Salesforce's stock price being up more than 40% in the last month alone, have you missed the boat? Is it time to start looking into jumping in? Or if you're a stock owner already, should you start thinking about getting out? In today's video, we're going to take a quick look at Salesforce and share my thoughts on where it's going in the future. In a recent video, I shared about how Apple's stock split has caused the Dow 30 to get shuffled up. 3 companies got kicked out, 3 new companies joined, and one of those companies was Salesforce. Salesforce's stock price has also been up more than 50% in the last 6 months. Going back to just getting out of college, one of my really good buddies was one of the early staff working at Salesforce. He loved it there. It was a really high energy, competitive, aggressive company, and they grew a lot, and he made a crap load of money. I never really knew that much about Salesforce, and now that it's coming back into the spotlight of my life, just because, this whole Dow Jones thing, I decided to take a look at it. Taking a look here at the 1-year chart, and again here at the 5-year chart, we see that it's gone crazy in the last couple of months. One of the things we really need to take into account is the international pandemic situation going on. Salesforce has really been set to capitalize on this whole trend, this whole shift to many companies having to switch to making their entire workforce completely mobile. Salesforce is like the company that does that. And so they've been in the right position for that. So initially looking at this stock price spike, I was kind of like, yep, too late. Already missed the boat. Not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But actually looking into the numbers a little bit, I think we're, a little bit over fair price, but not that bonkers. So let's dive in and take a look at the numbers. Interestingly, in 1999, one of the co-founders and now CEO, Marc Benioff, decided, I'm going to make the end of on-site software. And so recently in a lot of the different videos I've been doing, I've been talking about cloud everything or hybrid cloud stuff. I did a video on Datadog recently, a really interesting stock, but Marc Benioff was one of these kind of pioneers saying, hey guys, in the future, a lot of our processing, a lot of our storage is not going to be on-site, it's going to be off-site in the cloud. Of course, at the time when it started, convincing people that there is a benefit to doing that was very hard, but as we've seen, Salesforce has grown really well. Salesforce's stock ticker is CRM. CRM stands for Customer Relations Management. Initially, Salesforce started out, as their name implies, putting together CRM, Customer Relations Management products that helped you and your small company, or large company actually for that matter, manage different customers, manage what's happening in the process of selling to new customers, and helping your sales team manage all of that information, figuring out where they are in that sales process, and later on adding all kinds of automation to that process as well. That continues to be one of their main core products, but they've also started to branch out into various other things as well. Salesforce is completely dominating the SalesForce Automation, or SFA, SalesForce Automation category. They own over 30%, and they're like completely smoking other huge competitors like Adobe and Microsoft and companies like that. Interestingly enough, when Marc Benioff started with this vision and they eventually put together their Sales Cloud system that basically invented the whole software as a service, or SaaS, like arena, and which is growing and growing like wildfire these days, 20 years later. Between their Service Cloud and newer Marketing Cloud systems, they have almost all areas of customer acquisition and retention covered. And for pretty much any business, getting new customers and keeping those customers is like super vital. It's kind of the lifeblood of a growing company. And so a lot of companies are kind of like, yeah, of course we use Salesforce. And of course we're going to use them forever because we want to keep being able to grow. And as a result, customer retention is over 90%. It seems to be growing even more. And they have the network effect going on for them. Click up here if you want to know more about what the network effect is. But their growing suite of software helps customers not only stay on board, but provides a really wide moat for Salesforce. And that moat is, imagine an old castle in medieval times. The bigger your moat is, the harder it is for enemies to get in. Basically, when your whole company is built on, we use this system to manage customers, use this system to manage marketing and automate these things, then starting from the beginning and being like, hey guys, let's switch the entire backbone of our marketing or customer management departments to some whole other system is like a huge, difficult undertaking. So switching out of Salesforce's systems is so hard. Not that a lot of people want to do it, but it's so hard that it provides Salesforce with this really high annual recurring revenue and therefore a really generous moat. In recent years, they've not only added growth in SalesForce Automation, they're also beefing up customer service, marketing automation, e-commerce, analytics, and artificial intelligence. So that gives you an idea of kind of like how their vision just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And Marc Benioff is very much a man of big vision. Speaking of diversification, Salesforce Platform, a new service, basically allows their clients to really quickly and easily set up apps and distribute them. And some of these apps might be internal apps for sales teams going out or things like that. But continuing to innovate with new services that their already satisfied clients can take advantage of makes customer retention, customer satisfaction, and also therefore revenues appear to have really bright prospects. I mentioned earlier that their share price has gone up over 50% in the last 6 months, but I should also add to that their 1-year sales growth is about 31%, and their 1-year EPS growth has also hit 103%. These are really stunning numbers for a company this big. Speaking of how big the company is, after this huge stock price spike, their market cap's like 250 billion or something like that, which is really, really substantial for a company that most people haven't even heard of out in general society. Jumping into more of the specific numbers, revenue grew 29% year over year up to 5.151 billion, which demolished expectations. Non-GAAP operating margins were super strong at 20.2% compared to 14.3% a year ago, and even lower in previous years. This growth in margin seems like it's probably going to be able to keep continuing as management continues offering new products and also pushes to pull in higher margins, as generally speaking, Salesforce's margins are a little bit lower than a lot of their competitors. Considering how the company has been growing over the years, typically Salesforce pulls off an earnings surprise, especially for their EPS. Each quarter, it seems like for a very, very long time, they've been pulling off earnings surprises. And I think with their entry onto the Dow Jones 30, probably name recognition, name value is going to keep going up, and I wouldn't be surprised if stock price continues to go up as well. Another note for you is that their long-term debt to equity ratio is only 0.08%, which blows my mind and is really encouraging sign. In my research, I found a couple of things that potential investors or current investors might think of as caution points, and I wanted to share those with you real quick. Recently, they've been in the habit of making acquisitions to reach out into other spaces or other territories. And critics look at a lot of these acquisitions as maybe you're paying too high a premium. Salesforce is flush with cash, but when you're overpaying for acquisitions, in some cases, it may never pay off if you pay way too much. I'm not going to go into any of the details or specifics on any of those acquisitions at this point, but I think that's one thing to take into account when you're looking at a company that's already this big. When people are expecting them to keep growing at 10 or 20% every year, double digits, when their market cap's already 250 billion bucks, it's hard to in your same territory. There's a lot of pressure on management to be like, oh, we got to get into that new arena or that sector, and a lot of times companies start to fall out of their core competencies if they're not doing that the right way. Another interesting note I found was that the number of shares held by institutions is 83%, and that means only 17% of the stocks are held by individuals. I'm not sure why in particular, but it seems like institutions, that's like ETFs and investment banks and big funds and things like that, really, really like this stock. That's not inherently a really bad thing, but if Wall Street decides, hey, we're going to dump this, then it could drop really, really quickly. So that's just something to keep on your mind if you're considering investing. Insider trading alert, it looks like Marc Benioff recently sold about 20,000 stocks, which it was like a 2-page long thing of him selling stocks, which could be alarming, but actually, if you look at the number of remaining stocks he still has, it's like 29 million or something like that. So it probably just means he needs to pay off some bills or he's getting a new house or something like that. I think he still has like $7 billion or something worth of stock left in the company. So actually, that isn't a red flag. So before I share my thoughts, I wanted to ask you to hit the like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts down in the comments section. But first, I'll share my thoughts. I personally haven't and don't own Salesforce. I'm really interested to see where it's going to go now that it's getting onto the Dow. This whole thing with Tesla going 2017 Bitcoin levels. We're kind of seeing that. If you look at Salesforce's price chart, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm too late, I missed the run and it's already over. I personally like the company and I think it will keep growing going into the future. And actually a lot of the analysts don't actually consider it overpriced right now, which is surprising to me. But for me personally, I don't think I'm going to start adding shares right now. I feel like I missed the boat a little bit. I feel like if it came back down to maybe like 220, 240, it'd probably be a pretty good choice. But at its current price of like 280 or 300 or whatever it's at, I feel like it's slightly too expensive for what you're getting. That being said, again, if you have a really long-term perspective, you probably won't go wrong with Salesforce going into the next 5-10 years, especially with this huge trend in basically the entire world switching to teleworking and things like that. So those are my thoughts on Salesforce. Looking forward very much to hearing your thoughts. Have a great one. I love you guys. Have a great weekend.